And this hangout is live. Konnichiwa, bitches. Welcome to the second ever episode of the Ultimate Man's League podcast. This is the commish, Doug, coming at you, along with the special guest, owner of D's Nate's. Nate Kane joins us. How you doing, Nate?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. We got a great show lined up for the guys here today. We're going to review week one. Then we're going to go over some waiver wire activity as well as some injuries that happened this week. We're going to do a new power rankings for week two, talk about some of the week two matchups, and then the week two game of the week. Should be a really great show here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my screen share. That way we could, people can follow along with what I'm looking at as it goes along. But should be good to go. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. Okay, that looks really weird.
There we go.
Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to the league homepage. Some of you are familiar with this. Some of you aren't because you only use your phone. But Nate, why don't we go ahead and talk about week one here? How did you think the games went here? Why don't we go ahead and start with this game, me versus Joe, since that's the first one up. What were your thoughts on this game?
Honestly, I kind of expected it to go this way. I think with Joe's team, I think he has a lot of new players, and I think with some injuries that he had, I don't think. Hold on 1 second, I'm pulling up his team right now. Yeah, he doesn't really have much to work with, to be honest with you. Did a lot of bad trades, I think, and didn't really do anything in the draft, so it definitely didn't help.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting to be able to compete much this year, but that Thursday night game, Kareem Hunt, Mike Gillislee, and Tyreek Hill they really just put their boot on Joe's throat. I mean, you look at some of these other totals I had: 3.2 from Hoyer, 4.5 from Perkins, 2.3 from Britt, 0 from Henry, and then a 1.5 from Tom Savage. Like when your opponent puts up numbers like that, you should beat him.
Really, honestly.
Yeah, but Joe just couldn't hack it. I don't know how many games my rebuilding team is going to win this year. But overall, Joe, I really think, dropped the ball and lost one that he really should have won.
Yeah, honestly, wasn't he projected to win in the beginning?
He was by like 30 points, and then, he got fucked by the long dick of Kareem Hunt, and it was just there was nothing to be done.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Looking at some of these other games, though, you had my brother Tim against Steve. You'll notice they both have two owners at the top of their team because they are morons and forgot their passwords. But this game was a little closer than the game against Steve. And this one, in my opinion, went about as you'd expect for a team like Steve that is in a little bit of a rebuild, had some injuries during the game, and gave up a lot to get Jordan Howard, frankly, I think is the real reason he lost. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Honestly, now what was the injury with Andy Dalton?
Andy Dalton didn't get injured. Andy Dalton was just horrible. He threw 4 interceptions, had a fumble as well that he lost. But C.J. Fedorowicz got a concussion, left this game, one of like 9 Texans to get concussions. Allen Robinson tore his ACL. It was just a bad week for injuries for these teams.
It was a very, very bad week for injuries this week. Definitely, a lot of teams got hit.
Absolutely, we'll talk about that more, especially when we get to Connor's game. But overall, though, I think you look at this game. It went, it was close, like you'd expect. These teams are both, I think both these teams will end up being like high seeds in the first choice tournament. They'll win 5-6 games, and that'll be enough to get you, 1, 2, 3 seed in the first choice tournament. I don't see a lot of potential here for a big playoff run. That said, Dalvin Cook did look good for Minnesota for Steve, and if he can be an RB1, then Steve's going to have a pretty decent team this year.
Yeah, honestly, I think picking up a few extra players in the waiver wire wouldn't help either.
Yeah, true. Alex versus Adam. Now this was just an abortion here. Alex puts up 92 points in this game. Now there's a few reasons for that. He had a couple of players that didn't play particularly well. But the way you look at it like this is Alex's team has the widest range of outcomes, in my opinion, this year. This is a team that, if he sneaks into the playoffs, could win the championship because he's got, that level of talent. But he could also miss the playoffs completely, and with a couple injuries, be looking at the toilet seat. So this is
especially being very early in the game. I think he's definitely got a very good shot at being pretty sporadic, and I think he could come out on the winning end of that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, this, and make no mistake, this is a team that if you catch them on the right week, they will absolutely flame you. If Aaron Rodgers throws for 4 touchdowns in the same week that Green and Cooper have big games, and Rob Gronkowski, this is a team that can absolutely kill you if you're not careful. But at the same time, there's no depth. I mean, he started Dante Foreman, who got one touch. So Alex also, incidentally, is the only team to not have picked up anybody since the draft. So he needs to be more active, or he's going to find himself wearing a toilet seat come next draft.
Oh, definitely.
And then we'll just do the last week's game of the week right here. Rampage versus Trippers, Kevin versus my dad. This one was definitionally the game that went how you expected. My dad was probably going to lose anyway, was down a bunch of players because of the hurricane. What were your thoughts on this one, Nate?
Hold on one second. You're breaking up real bad. I've got real bad internet connection right now.
Really?
Hmm.
Is that any better?
No, it's storming right now.
It's storming out on the East Coast?
Yeah, I got rain right now. It doesn't help I'm in the boondocks either.
Yeah, it doesn't. Why don't we go ahead and skip over the rest of the week 1 previews and get into the waiver wire. All right, so you see some of the waiver wire activity here. Let me just bring up the waiver report, actually. Now, Nate, I believe you had the number 1 claim on waivers. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about your thinking?
That was the David Johnson injury. I think I took full advantage of that, and I think I got the better of the 2 backups to Johnson. I think he's going to play a little bit more and be better on passing down yardage, which is definitely going to be more points for myself. So I definitely look forward to that.
Yeah, and he was the no-brainer number 1. Interesting was that Ray was able to pick up Javorius Allen that far down the list. He picked 6th and still got it. Alex did not put in a waiver claim at all. You'll see his name didn't get on, wasn't on here at all. So that's not good. That's not how you improve a bad running back group. So you don't want to harp on it too much, but that's not what you're after. I think you made the right choice in picking up Kerwin Williams. I think it will be a little bit of a committee there, but
definitely.
He was the easy choice for you there. Going into the power rankings for this year, for week 2, I should say. Sorry, I actually had to add a tier. We'll go over that when we get there. But the first tier is championship contenders. We talked about it last. We talked about that last week on the podcast. And this still just got 2 teams in it, Connor and Kevin. I decided to keep Connor in this list on this list, even though the David Johnson injury happened. Partially because Ezekiel Elliott looks like he's going to play the whole year. What are your thoughts on tier 1, Connor and Kevin?
Oh, I'm going to probably take Connor. Honestly, I think his team is the one that's going to, go the whole distance.
Even without David Johnson?
I think so. I definitely think so. I think with a couple waiver wire moves and maybe a side trade, I think he has the depth on his team to get past that and move forward and win more games, I think.
Yeah, the Ezekiel Elliott thing was a big win for Connor. If he lost Johnson and Elliott, that would be a rough spot for him. But you see,
big hit with just where he's at right now. I think he'll be fine.
Exactly, and you see Connor sitting there with the most points in the league yet again. Just overall, a really great performance. Kevin is right up there too. You see him almost in 2nd and 3rd there, and his team suffered injury as well. He lost Denny Woodhead for the foreseeable future. He's got depth to withstand that, but Danny Woodhead was playing well before he got injured. Moving on to the next tier, 3 teams in this tier, playoff favorites. These are teams I expect to make the playoffs. You got Carlo, Pat, and my dad in here, and Carlo had one of the more impressive wins last week, beat Ray in a close one, despite some good performances from Ray's players. You see Pat had a really bad week, but he got hit hard by that hurricane. He had a lot of Miami players, and his best receiver was a Buccaneer. And then we already talked about my dad getting hit by the hurricane. What do you think of the teams in this tier? Do you agree that they're playoff favorites, or do you think they're going to have a little bit of an uphill battle?
Honestly, I think Pat's the team in that category. I think with his lineup that he's got, I think he's definitely going to win a few more games. And I think getting past the whole Miami situation down in Florida, I think he definitely has nothing to worry about for the rest of the season. I don't think he's got pretty good depth. I think Phillip Rivers, he's sporadic, but I mean he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play for the team. Marshawn Lynch coming out of retirement, that's not bad. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Pat on this one.
So Pat's your favorite in that group. Do you think the other 2 teams will still make the playoffs, or do you think they're gonna struggle to do that?
I think playoff, and that'd be about it.
Okay. And then the next tier is actually a new tier. I added it this week. This is playoff hopefuls. These are teams that I think look good enough to make the playoffs, but aren't necessarily going to get there. This is Alex and Ray. Now, we talked about Alex's really inconsistent team, and then we saw Ray have some good performances from Tariq Cohen. What are your thoughts on this tier? Do you think either of these teams or both these teams will make the playoffs?
That is a tough one. Honestly, I might actually have to go with Alex. I think the fantasy points gods are going to be in his favor, I think, and a lot of his players are going to come out on top. I don't think he has very good depth, but I think with the amount of good players that he does have, I think he will definitely be a threat. Now, I think he'll probably lose week 1 in the playoffs, but I think he'll definitely make it there at least, I think.
So you think Ray's going to end up being on the outside looking in, kind of a 1 seed in the first choice tournament kind of thing?
Honestly, I could definitely see him winning the first seed on it with his team that he's got right now. Definitely be. I think I could see him winning that.
I mean, I got to say, Nate, I got to respectfully disagree with you there. I think that this Ray team is really great. He's really solid at quarterback. He's got 3 good running backs, and plus he's the one who got Buck Allen. He's got Jaquiz Rogers who can play a little bit for now. He's got Stephon Diggs, looks like that Minnesota offense might be fixed. He's still got Michael Thomas and Michael Crabtree, Sterling Shepard. He does need to clean up his bench, though. If you look at his bench, he's got Paxton Lynch in his IR spot. He needs to cut him and put Mike Williams there. Malcolm Mitchell's on injured reserve in the NFL. Cut him and pick up another wide receiver. And Max Williams probably doesn't need to be rostered on this team either. So this is a good deep team that could be so much deeper if Ray just cut some of the fat off his roster. And this is
he's definitely kind of just taking up right now.
Yeah, and it's almost the opposite problem of Alex. It's Alex has got a bunch of top end talent and nothing in the middle. Ray seems to have a bunch of stuff in the middle, but not a whole lot of elite players. Moving on to the next tier, this is first choice tournament fodder. These are guys I don't expect to make the playoffs. This is Steve, Adam, Tim, Joe, and you, Nate. What do you think? What are your thoughts first on being included in this tier, and second on the other teams that are in this tier with you?
I think it's slightly biased, but obviously the score doesn't lie when I come in at last place as far as fantasy points, and I think a lot of it comes down to bad calls on my end as far as not starting Kupp, who scored 17 points on my bench, and definitely Tom Brady dropped a deuce on me and got me 10 points, which definitely hurt pretty bad, seeing how I gave up Gronkowski and a couple other players to Alex for it. So, yeah. But honestly, I think I'm exactly where I kind of expected myself to be. Don't really have that enough talent on my team yet. I think maybe next year with a good draft pick and some better trades, I think I got a pretty good shot next year. But this is definitely not my year, I don't think.
Okay, what about Steve, Adam, Jim, and Tim and Joe? What do we think about those teams? Are any of those teams any good, or they all suck?
I think they all suck, but I like Joe's team, to be honest with you.
You're a fan of Joe's. What are some of Joe's players right now?
He's got Carson Palmer, Todd Gurley, Amir Abdul. I think he's got teams or players, I should say, rather, that I think are going to put up points when needed, but I don't think it's going to be consistent enough to where it's going to get him anywhere. But I think, with Sammy Watkins, how he plays, I definitely think he's going to see a little bit more action. And Martavis Bryant, I could see him having a breakout year, but I don't see any consistency with this team, though.
Yeah,
but I do like him, though. I like the players that he does have.
Yeah, we saw last week what can happen with this team if things don't go right. He got boat raced by one of the worst teams in the league. An interesting team down here is Steve's, I think, is in that he gave up a lot of stuff to get Jordan Howard, and it's really evident on his roster right now. Some of his wide receiver group is really young, which is good. So this is a young team. Like, he's starting a rookie at OP, at tight end, at running back, and wide receiver. And then he's got a second-year player at running back. Like, he's just got a really young team.
That pay dividends down the road.
I think it will. And the thing is, that's what he had to do. When you give up that much capital to get a guy like Jordan Howard, you need to take young players because you need to build around Jordan Howard versus, another team who could plug him into a lineup and go to a championship with him right now. This is a team that I think late in the season could play some spoiler. But as of right now, there's just, the players just aren't developed enough yet, I would say, at this point. But long term, this team
could be dead.
Yeah, like long term, it looks like a good team. The final tier is the squatters, people doing anything they can to avoid the toilet seat. And this is me and AJ. And we talked a lot before about my team overperforming in week 1. What were your thoughts on the explosion of points from the Muppets? 4th in the league in week
1. 1 second, pulling up. I didn't see this one. Now, who blew up on your team?
Kareem Hunt put up 46 points. You had Mike Gillislee run for 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill caught a long touchdown pass.
I think that was probably the most interesting play. I think you think that's going to be consistent, though. That was against what the hell did they play?
The Patriots, yeah. I think they blindsided the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots saw that coming. I'm not sure what level of consistency I can have with a young team, and frankly, a team that just doesn't have a lot of talent. Like Brian Hoyer and Josh McCown are my quarterbacks, and that's like.
But at the same time, though, I think with a good start like this, I think with what you're saying with the lack of depth on the actual team itself, I think they're going to kind of rely more on the running game itself. So I think that would actually, benefit him too, as far as picking up fast and having more volume and more potential for points.
Yeah, that's true. That could be a thing. But the other team in this tier was AJ, and it's funny that the tier at the bottom here is undefeated. But this is a team that's got a lot of middling talent on it. You've got Joe Flacco. You've got Jordan Matthews, Terrence West, Jesse James, Mike Glennon. There's just a lot of really mediocre players on this team. But he does have a foundational player in Christian McCaffrey. He had a bad game in week 1. But was still able to put up 11.5 points, 13 carries. I think it was 5 catches. Yeah. I thought he played pretty well. He did fumble, but hopefully that can be put behind him. They want to target him a lot, led the team in targets. This is a team with the arrow pointing up, but I don't see any steps that have been taken for him to get to the next level. What are your thoughts on the team that vanquished you in week 1, Team Member Pick?
Honestly, I thought I'd have to say Team Merritt pay, but I think that if he plays the waiver wire a little bit and maybe makes a few trades, but I don't see much potential out of the team other than getting into the first round pick and losing, and that's about it.
All right, now we're gonna go ahead and go to this week's scoreboard, week 2, and we'll talk about some of these games, and then we'll get to the game of the week, and then we'll get these guys out of here. First game we're gonna want to look at is. Joe versus Steve. You see Steve projected to lose by 0.6. So this projection is dead even. What are your thoughts on Suck My Ditka at Dad Puncher, Steve at Joe.
Well, looking at the teams, honestly, this is definitely going to come down to a close game, and I think that maybe just one injury is definitely going to come down to who wins this game or who has a better. But I think Joe's going to come out on top with as far as the depth and everything with projection. I think with the matchups, the teams and themselves, I think he's got it.
All right,
I like versus Washington. I think he'll do very well against that. Todd Gurley against Washington too. I think that's their run game sucks. Washington's defense as far as the run sucks, and I think that's definitely going to play a big factor into it. I think Carson Palmer is going to blow up against Indianapolis's wide open secondary. I think that they couldn't block a high school team, but I think Joe's the team in this one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is a this team is this is a game that I think will be really close. I think going into the late games on Sunday, we're not going to have any idea who's going to win this one. But I will cast my official vote for a Suck My Ditka. You don't lose to the Muppets and then go beat a better team like this. Next up is going to be Ray versus Tim. Ray lost week 1. Tim won. What do we think here? That Ray is projected to win by 16 points.
I've learned that points projection never means shit. I got screwed by that. But I could definitely see this one going as projected. With Mark Ingram, I think he had a rough start. I think he's going to pick it back up. I think Russell Wilson, he had a pretty good first game. Honestly, I think he's going to do fairly well against San Francisco with a team that has no name. And I'm going to have to go with Ray.
All right.
I like his team.
That will make two of us that will vote for Ray here in week 2. And this isn't a must-win for Ray, but these are the games that Ray needs to win if he's going to get a playoff spot. You can't go around losing to Tim and expect to make the playoffs.
No.
Next up is AJ versus Connor. Connor projected to win this one by 37 points. Your thoughts, Nate?
I think this is going to be a killing spree by Connor, and I think that he could probably bench a couple of his players, leave them empty, and still win, I think.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a perfect example of the fantasy ditch slap. I don't see they're giving a couple of players here to AJ, but I don't even know if I agree. I think Connor might beat him at every single position this week. This is just AJ running into a buzzsaw. I don't think he's going to get 2 upsets 2 weeks in a row. We're going to have to agree on that. Connor beats AJ in spectacular fashion. Moving on to the next game. Why don't we talk about D's Nates versus the Toad Point Trippers? You going to get off the schneid this week, Nate? You're projected to lose by 24.
Honestly, I don't have very much faith in my team right now with everything that happened last week. But I think with moving Cooper in, and I think hopefully Calvin Benjamin will actually get the ball a little bit more than last week, and hopefully Brandon Marshall will actually get to catch something more than a 10-yard pass. But I think if that happens, I think I have a pretty good shot. I definitely think I could pull this off. But Le'Veon Bell is very, very good. Frank Gore really didn't do much. But I think I don't want to go against myself. I think Kevin might actually beat me on this one, looking at the stats.
Yeah, I got to go with Kevin here too. I just think there's too much talent on that team. But the projection is pretty close. Who knows? You might get the Broncos defense might pick off Dak Prescott or something. Something the Giants couldn't do.
No, I'm hoping.
Let's take a gander at Adam versus Pat. Now, both these teams came into the league when the league expanded to 14 teams back in 2012. You see the line there. Pat's supposed to beat him by 41 points. Your thoughts, Nate?
I definitely think that's going to happen. Patrick's team is very, very solid. I think he's got a lot of talent on his team, and I think Adam's he's got good players. He's got a few good players, I think, but I think Patrick definitely has the depth and everything on this team. That's definitely going to go as expected, I think.
Yeah, I think Adam's going to lose too many points at tight end. Adam should focus on improving at that position for the next couple of weeks to try to get better there. But I definitely agree with you there again. Long bushes over white sharks. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at the Battle of the Dougs, the Murder Muppets versus the Rabbit College Rampage. My dad currently projected to win by 26. Your thoughts, Nate?
I definitely think this one's going to go as expected too. His lack in tight end and the second quarterback is Brian Hoyer. That's usually not a very good sign.
No, it's not.
I definitely see this one going as expected.
Yeah, I do have a really good history against my dad, and I'm not going to go against myself. Unlike you, Nate, I'm going to go with the Muppets, go to 2-0, get the job done. But I would not be surprised if I lost this game, just like I won't be surprised if I lose any game this season in general. The final game we'll preview is Week 2's Game of the Week. We have Carlo's Queef Wellington against Alex's Pain Train. The line is 24 points in favor of Carlo. Nate, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think this is going to be a bloodbath. Honestly, I don't think Alex's team is going to be able to keep up with the caliber of Carlo's team. I just don't see it. Already projected to be 20 points ahead.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Alex gets one injury and all of his players are going to have to be on their A game, and I don't see that happening. I maybe see a couple, maybe AJ Green and maybe Matt Forte decides to wake up and Aaron Rodgers has a good game, but I mean every single player on his team would have to be on top.
Yeah, he'd have to do a thing. But if Alex wants to be one of those teams that says, "Hey, I'm here, I'm a contender," he's got to go out there. He's got to beat Carlo. You can't be putting up 90 points and losing in week 1. You want to prove you're a contender, Alex? Go beat Carlo. And that's actually the end of the previews here. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the screen share there. I think I did anyway. Did I? There we go. So, Nate, what were your thoughts on your on being the first ever guest of the UML podcast?
It was fun. I enjoyed it. I definitely learned a lot. I try and pay attention a little bit more of other teams and watch other games other than the Giants, which are going to beat the Lions this week.
The Giants was that the team that was getting boat raced in Dallas the other day? Was that
I do remember that, and yes, it does still hurt. I think that we're going to have it figured out. Hopefully Odell Beckham comes back, which hopefully it looks pretty good unless he's still partying in Miami. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But
yeah, that team is just completely different without him. The Cowboys didn't have to respect Eli's ability to beat them. Eli might be done, by the way. And without Odell out there, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't do anything. And
we were outplayed, and I think we were defeated. Honestly, though, the Cowboys were playing for something a hell of a lot more than the Giants. They were playing for Texas. Obviously every game's important, but they had it. You know what I mean? As far as the need and desire to win that game.
Yeah, you saw it's kind of two different reactions to the two Texas teams this week. I think the Texans were kind of emotionally drained. You saw them get killed by Jacksonville. And then the Cowboys did it a little bit differently. I mean, part of that is the fact that the Cowboys weren't starting Tom Savage at quarterback. But it really was just a bloodbath there in Houston.
Where was that Jacksonville team last year? What happened? Where was that? Why can't they throw that off?
Yeah. Where were 10 sacks in a game last year? Calais Campbell looked like an absolute savage in that game, though. 4 sacks, which is a Jacksonville record. That's a successful free agent signing already. His first game, he breaks the team's sack record. But,
that's impressive. So I definitely think that was a one in a shy game. But I think as far if they can continue to play like that, they're definitely they could.
Absolutely. Well, guys, this is going to be the end of the second edition of the UML podcast. If you want to be on the podcast, let me know. I'm happy to have Nate back. Nate, come back anytime. But I'm happy to have Nate back. But if you want to come on it, get at me. I actually know how to do this now, so I shouldn't have Nate waiting around for like half an hour again. But until next time, konnichiwa, bitches.